Citizens of YouTube, I have many news. I will start with other people's books, um, though mine are obviously far more important. Uh, these are the things I'm reading at the moment. So I'm reading this book by a famous Japanese author whose surname is Murakami, The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. He's a very famous writer of magical realism and literary fiction. I'm about a quarter of the way through. It's intriguing, but he's a very good writer. I'm having fun with it. I'm also reading. This is not called Time to Kill. This is an art. It's called In the Shadow of Their Dying. It's by Michael R. Fletcher and Anna Smith Spark, two uh, members of grimdark royalty. And this is peak grimdark. Characters are wading through pools of poo and heaps of entrails that are simultaneously trying to strangle them. Yeah, it's good stuff. I'm enjoying it. And I was also sent by Gregory Contaxis. His book two in his series started with the Return of the Knights, and this is the Fall of Giants. Um, and that's a very fine, epic fantasy cover. So that'll be interesting. I'll add it to my to read pile, which, as you can imagine, is quite large. So I have also got lots of the library trilogy books. I have the UK paperback and the US paperback. The US paperback has more vibrant colours. The UK one has its gold foil and it's a more sort of um, I don't know, classic colouring. Anyway, I have a fair number of these. I'm worried that my sound is getting out of sync with the action, but I'm going to press on. Um, so if you have a blog or an Instagram where you reach a large number of people and you live in the UK and you would like one of these, let me know and if I can, I'll send you one. There's an economics to sending out books, and obviously you send out books to spark interest, but you would like the people that those books land with to spark sufficient interest to cover the investment of a book and the postage. Because these are my author copies, um, it's essentially the postage that needs covering, although these are a limited supply. And then, if I were to run out of them and I wanted to send someone a book, I'd have to buy the book. So then it'd have the cost of the book in. But bear with me. So, like to send one of these to a UK person, second class post, £3. To send it to America, closer to £11. And the percentage of the sale that comes to me is, I don't know, something like 8% of the money paid. So we're talking about something in the region of 50p. So if I send it to a Brit, unless they manage to sell six copies for me, I've lost money. And if it's to an American, they'd have to sell considerably more. And if you've got a booktube channel and you've got 5,000 followers, even if you really like this book, and there's no guarantee you will, but if I send it to you and you like it and you enthuse about it on your channel at great length, we have to say what portion of those people who actually watch that video will then say, well, yeah, I'll go and buy that. And it tends to be really small. Like when I try and sell something, I've written a news story or something, a short story, and I blare about it on all of my social media channels to 35,000 people on Twitter and 52,000 people on Goodreads and etc. New good folk here. And then I look the next day and say, how many extra did I sell? And it might be like five. So, don't overestimate your power to sell these things. And that's why when people sort of respond to these, would you like, are you an Instagram or are you a tuber? And then I get someone who says, well, I'm not those things, but I do review on Goodreads, and I'll tell my mates it really is not economic to be sending these things out. And as an author, you really have to think carefully about your limited assets, where you're going to put them. Reeling all that back. If you are in the UK and you have any sort of semi-sizable platform and would like a free signed copy of this, let me know and I may well send you one. I also have the hardbacks of the book that broke the world, the American version and the British version. And just as before, the American one is more vivid. The British one is more restrained. Ooh, those are upside down, aren't they? And the British one has this gold foiling that is oh, they weren't upside down. I'm having difficulties. Um, and the gold foiling comes into its own when you have them in your hands and you can move them around. It's a sort of dynamic thing. In a static sense, it's less impressive. So I hope that when the American one is released on the 9th of April and the British one on the 11th of April, you will all rush out and buy them or already have them pre-ordered. Um, you can see over here that we have the Goodreads listing, and the first book is cruising on towards 15,000 ratings, and we'll hit 15,000 within its first year, which is better than I've done for a while. So thank you very much. And then there's Overdue and Returns. It's a short story here, and this one is, in fact, two short stories. And they seem to be pretty popular. And then the book that broke the world is a couple of early reviews from people who actually have the book and some ratings for people who get confused and think they're rating the first one and just happen to end up sticking it on the second one. What else? I think I heard someone knocking on the door. Shall I break off and just look? I think I'm going to do that. You can all fast forwards to this bit. I did hear someone knocking at the door, and it wasn't for me. It was a parcel for my wife. But um, I had been promised a bunch of more book deliveries, including the super fancy locked library edition of um, the book that broke the world, i.e., the equivalent of this one for book two. And it would have been quite fun to have produced that in real time for you, but no. What else did I want to talk about? Let's see. We can look at the. Oh yeah, this is just a reminder I sent out on Twitter of the fact that I've got these short stories, and these are the top 8 bestseller short stories of mine, ordered in uh, ranked by how many they've sold, basically. So the best selling one is Bound. Next is During the Dance, which is free. So by sold I mean downloads. Road Brothers, Overdue. So that's a new and upcoming star. Um, the Visitor, which is also free and is a wild card story that I'm quite proud of. So that's why I got put it out by itself once I got the rights back. Um, the Devil You Know, which is a Nona story, but if you buy you can buy a version where there's for actually for less cost. There are 3 stories in there, which is a Nona story and a story for Jalan and Snorri from the Red Queen's War. And that squeaking noise, well, there were 2 squeaking noises, one of which was the door being pushed open by Wobble, and the other was Wobble squeaking. And I have about 15 minutes ago recovered a mouse from this lad. And I feel it's unlikely he caught it because he's quite slow and not much of a hunter, but he did have hold of a dead mouse. So he's in my bad books. Um, and then The New World, which is in fact a novella, over 25,000 words, I think. And then Returns, which is a new, these 2 short stories. So anyway, I'm just reminding you all of their existence so that you hopefully go out and buy them. And that noise is now scratching on his scratching post. He is an amazing cat in that he scratches on his scratching post. He's a little bastard in that he also scratches on the carpet, though he has a scratching post that he uses. Right, moving on. The SPFBO is only about 4 or 5 weeks from completing, and it is the tightest of competitions that we've ever had, I think. If we look at the scoreboard, you can see that the book in first place at the moment is Murder at Spindle Manor with 7.75 average. And the book in last place at the moment is Daughter of the Beast with 6.7. So we go from 6.7 to 7.75. There's a span of 1.05 points across the entirety of the table. And we've got all these books on, two of them locked on 7.35, two of them locked on 7.30. So essentially, every score that comes in is jiggling the scoreboard around, and every single one of those books is not only a mathematical possibility of winning the contest. Um, it could actually happen. If they get a couple of very high ratings and the one at the top gets a couple of very low ratings, you could literally take the one at the bottom and put it on the top. So it's a bit of a nail biter. Um, I mean, in one sense, the purpose of the contest is to go, look, this book's magnificent. Everyone should come and buy this book. It's the champion, and that's good. Um, but it is nice when there's a lot of spotlight on the whole field. Um, but then again, in another sense, we have these 10 books, and you heard about them when they were made finalists, and we appear to have got no further along the road of actually saying, this is the one you should read, or these two, or these three are the real stars amongst it. It's like 6 months ago, we had 10 books, and these are well worthy of your attention. And we're in the same place now because they are all well liked among the judges. Um, so, yes, let's see what happens and where the board is when the remaining 20 or 30% of the ratings have come in. But it's certainly worth watching the SPFBO this year. Um, and the final thing I wanted to talk about is a less happy note. I will mention that author James A. Moore, fantasy author with some 40 novels to his uh, name, died very recently. And he was my age, so that was a bit scary. And although I didn't know him well at all, we had spoken briefly on Facebook and followed each other on Twitter. So yes, commiserations to anyone who knew him well, and maybe check him out. And another author who is having a very hard time at the moment is Brian Lee Durfee, who I watch on YouTube. He's a very exciting YouTuber and author of a number of fantasy books. And he's also reviewed my books and liked them. And he was rushed to hospital just a few days ago and wasn't expected to live. Thankfully, he has lived, and he's even made, and you can look it up on YouTube, a video from his hospital bed where he is clearly in a very poor state, in sort of fairly intensive care. But um, he has a GoFundMe, which is raising money towards his, I guess, towards his medical expenses, because it's tough in America. And also, he's going to have a whole bunch of expenses that are not strictly paying hospitals and doctors. So even if he does have some coverage there, uh, he's going to need help getting back on his feet. This is obviously a life-altering situation. So I thought I would give Brian my best wishes and a shout out, and anyone who feels in a position to help him out with a donation there, please do so. Right, I shall love you and leave you, and all we're left with is the bit where I fiddle about looking for the button.